Perhaps one of the most commonly used terms associated with Martin Luther is reformer. Naturally, the assumption that comes along with this is that Luther reformed something, and that something is usually identified as the church. So here's the question. Would Luther have identified himself as a reformer of the church, and would he have identified the reformation of the church as the fruit of his labor? We can be fairly certain the answer to both of these questions is no. That may come as a surprise, as most Lutherans nowadays like to understand themselves as following in Luther's footsteps, as always reforming. So why the misunderstanding? It centers on Luther's notion of what the church is and how it's established and maintained. Luther recognized that the church is not something that can be reformed because the church is established by Jesus and his words. Now, think about it. Can we reform what Jesus said? Can we alter, change, or improve upon Jesus' words and promises? Luther knew that throughout Christian history, people have tried to do just that by inserting their own ideas onto the understanding of what the church is and what it should do. To think that one can reform the church is to imagine that we control the establishment and life of the church, not Jesus. To be sure, Luther was a reformer, but the things we can point to having been reformed are educational systems, governance, and oversight of religious institutions, and, to some extent, the means by which the gospel was placed in the ears and hearts of the people sitting in the pews. So know that if a Lutheran who follows in the footsteps of Luther is to talk about always reforming, it is always about how we get Christ's word and promises into the ears of the people sitting in the pews. All of this was said and done so you can remember, a mighty fortress is our God.